What's good, y'all, and welcome back to another video. It is finally updating time, which means content, and content means guides. So here we go. AMR 19 and 20 minimum requirements when it comes to heroes and gear. Let's have a look at the team, let's discuss possible swap outs, and then get straight into it, as well as finish on gearing. So straight off the bat you can see we're going with the Northerner and Nightmare comp. It's just the most apparent comp because you're limited to one platform tile, and that platform tile is either going to be Hollow or Elowin in most cases. So you are really just limited to either fighters or tanks, and the way we approach this by having 2 tanks and 5 fighters. So the focus between your fighters should be rather on AoE than single target. So for example we have Wrath, Astrid, Volker, A-Bomb, all of them with AoE capabilities, because you're going to be fighting against a lot of enemies at the same time, and it's just easier and more efficient for your gear if you, especially if your gear is on the weaker side, to use units with AoE capabilities rather than ones with single target ones. But that doesn't mean single target ones are useless. So out of all the heroes here, the easiest to replace would be the tanks. It just needs to be any kind of tanks. It doesn't really make a difference. The only reason we have Isolde here is to potentially boost up Astrid. But yeah, the 2 tanks could be anyone, and whoever complained about the Oleg, right? Then we have Hollow. Hollow really only is there for the Rage region. The Rage region isn't even necessarily as needed, and a normal healer like Vortex would also suffice, but it just makes it easier for your units to kill, because if they ult more, they do more damage. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now for the replacements, it's all going to basically end up being the fighter category. One of the perfect replacements would easily be Volker. So if you have a Volker and you're missing one of these epics, just slot her in. Or even if you're missing like an A-Bomb, or your Volker isn't skilled for whatever reason. Otherwise, anything else that is legendary and a fighter is going to do a fantastic job. Even something like swapping out Abomination for a Magnus, or swapping out a Wrath, or just adding in 2 more units. You have 2 free spaces, so you could even just keep in Wrath for the Lord bonus and just put in anybody else. The important part is that the range is a great advantage, and that's also the reason why we're having a look at Volker and A-Bomb specifically, because they fit both categories. They're both ranged, and they also have the 3 tile range, so they can reach over the defender, which you see in a bit. But yeah. So that's pretty much, you can swap in anything. Like for example, you could swap out Astrid for an Arrogance, you could swap in a Zillitu for Volker. It really doesn't make a difference. You just have to find a good balance between what do you have, how good is your gear, and then just make it work. It is really a rather simple stage, and you see it in the gear. Let me just give you a brief showcase before, just so we all know that this isn't impossible. We're looking at gear that has no set effects. We're looking at no right side set effects and no tier 2 gear, so Sorbent Arcana, Infernal Roar, Aegis Wrath, none of those. But we're obviously making up a bit with substats. But as long as you have, for example, just a Wisdom set or a Night Terror set with significantly worse stats, the set effect is going to be more than making up for it, which is why this stage is so great. So let's get into the stage, and because the placements are so simple, the tactic is also rather simple. We bring in Volker as well as a tank, preferably a tank that can increase their block, because they'll be able to help out with stopping the enemies from completely overwhelming us. And then we bring in Abomination, so Abomination has the time to actually get his skill ready. And then lastly we'll be placing down Wrath, and we also face him downwards because Wrath has his AoE, and that will allow him to hit on his side and also support Volker in the bottom lane, allowing you to reduce gear requirements even further. And then we'll be bringing in Hollow to give us that Rage region, and as soon as the enemies come in close, that is when we activate Isolde, so we get that increased block. Next off we bring in Astrid, or any other AoE fighter, or even single target fighter depending on your gear, and put a Oleg in front. So yeah, that is pretty much already it. At that point you're just going to let it run through, cycle your ultimates, and you're already done. Here we'll be bringing in Deimos as soon as the cost is ready, and as soon as these smaller enemies come closer, we'll be taking advantage of Astrid's AoE capabilities to take care of the enemies and also just block with Oleg just in case. Again, we can cycle Isolde just to give us a bit more block, a bit more leeway, activate the other ultimates as they come. Obviously, you don't really need to worry about ultimates with A-Bomb and Wrath because they're automatic. And Deimos is getting some nice extra heals in. And the reason why Volker is also so great is because she's providing a healing source to the fighter that is fighting at the top there. And someone like Deimos, as well as having her lifesteal in his ultimate, is just perfect for the role of being your singular defense at the top line there, because at the end of the day these guys would just run into him, give him, I think it's 5% each as well as an attack boost, and that is just so 5% HP, and that is just not something you really desire. But as you can see, it really is a very simple stage, and I think I am blocking the cost. But to be fair, it wasn't all that impressive of a maneuver, and at that point it's just gonna be the boss attacking your tank and you hitting with Volker and A-Bomb, Volker and Wrath. So yeah, that is stage done. As soon as the boss hits 0, it's GG. If anybody is wondering if you can finish the fight faster, the answer is not really, because the boss is invulnerable until he starts moving. So yeah. Now that we've got this through and can show you the way to get your Titan Meteorite, let's quickly go over the T's gears so we all are on the same page, and then move on to stage 20. So for Isolde, we have pretty much a simple tank set with a lot of with high defense, high HP. You don't even need a set effect. The Rage Regen is completely useless, and the Bastion Ring is way over the top. You can just go with a normal Bastion Ring, which really helps with the blocking. It really is, at the end of the day, tank gear, and there's nothing that really gets close to killing your tanks. Same goes for Oleg right here. You have a healer on the field. You don't need as much HP. You do not need a Guardian set. You do not need the defense. You don't need the Rage Regen, and you don't even need the Bastion Ring if you time your ultimates right. Next up we have Astrid. Astrid, once more, as you can see, left side set effect for attack, right side no set effect, and the only tip you need for gearing is keep in mind you do not have a Dolores on the field, because you do not have a Dolores or respective attack percent increaser on the field. You want to go with as much attack percent as possible in the gear, and yeah, you could try to go with more crit damage and find a way to slot in a constance, but it really isn't necessary. So yeah, stat wise we always have attack percent as the main stat. Don't really worry about the substats, it just needs to be anything similar, and once more, if you can't get anything similar, just get a set effect and you'll be fine. Artifact wise, we have a Eye of Sin at +1 on Astrid. We have Hollow in a pretty standard Rage Regen comp. You also don't need an Invigoration set, it doesn't even make a difference where your Invigoration buff lands, it's all pretty much the same. The only thing you're going to want to look out for is high attack speed as well as high Rage Regen, combined with whatever artifact you have. Golden Scarab is also way too much, because as you've seen there were no particular timings and nothing to really struggle with. Next up, Wrath, same scenario, high attack, some attack speed, and then the rest in crit damage, how much ever you can manage, be it with attack percent, crit rate, attack speed, or attack percent, crit rate, crit damage. Same goes for the chest piece, once more, attack percent with the 3 substats. And obviously, especially for the 19 stage, you can easily slot in another crit damage piece. It really won't make a difference because the enemy defense isn't all that high. And then Abomination is again the same shenanigan. As you can see, he'll end up at like 20k attack, some attack speed, crit damage, again not a set. I kind of ran out of the normal sets on the left side, but it is the way it is, it really won't make a difference. And then again, Eye of Sin as the artifact for the +10, which reminds me that on Wrath we are actually running a Lunacy Visor for some extra block and extra security. Depending on gear and units used, you can easily swap out the artifacts and change it. It's just all about, do enemies walk past your units before you kill them or not. And then Deimos, again, same thing, full on attack, some crit damage, some crit rate, a horrible weapon, and whatever artifact. To round this out, we'll be ending with Volker. Volker, again, same thing, just make a set. Focus on attack if you can, crit damage won't be the end of the world. attack artifact, again Eye of Sin, and that's about it. Stage 19 done.